Good evening from New York. I'm Selwyn Collins, your host of CWS As It Is. Welcome to another edition of CWS As It Is. The lovely lady next to me is Mrs. Adele Williams Sewell. Adele, good evening.
Hello, Selwyn.
How are you this afternoon? And I must say, welcome to CWS As It Is. This is your first time.
Yes, it is. Thank you very much for inviting me to be on your show.
You're quite welcome. Adele, just to orient our audience, those who are not familiar with you, Um, and I just want to tweak this question about who you are a little bit and ask you, what are three things that come to mind when you think about yourself?
Oh gosh, three things that come to mind when I think about myself. Um, Perhaps persistence. I like people, and I like friends and family.
And you're what?
I'm sorry?
I didn't hear the last one.
Friends and family.
Friends and family, also. You see, when you lean forward there just now, that was the song, the volume we were looking for. So let's see if we can get.
Okay,
All right, cool.
okay.
I'm going to arrest somebody, a cancer survivor and an advocate for cancer prevention and treatment. Is that accurate?
Yes, that is correct.
Mhm. What is your relationship to cancer?
I have no relationship with cancer. And I have no desire to have a relationship with cancer. However, my first experience with cancer was when I was 35 years old when I was diagnosed with breast cancer. That was way back in 1999.
hmm And what have you learned about yourself during your experience with cancer?
Well, the 1999 experience was breast cancer. And I think, I think the question is, what have I learned about myself?
Yes.
Um, that's a good question. I think I think I've learned that I'm very accepting of things which happen to me. I think in a non-judgmental manner, I accept them
hmm
and I look at them and try to look for a way forward.
Was that important to you to have developed some sort of mechanism to deal with this? And if so, do you impart this knowledge to friends or families who have been diagnosed?
Well, what I tend to do when people are diagnosed with cancer is really ask them to be true to themselves, to listen to their heart
hmm
and, to try and be aware of what their feelings are.
hmm
Um, many people tell cancer survivors to be positive, and a lot of people feel that that's just, in fact, just an additional burden that they're putting on them
hmm
when they've got quite a hard journey in front of them. So I think the important thing is actually not to tell people how to be, but to encourage them to be themselves and to embrace their feelings. That I think is what I've found has helped me through my three personal experiences with cancer so far, and also my experiences of family members and friends with diagnosis of cancer.
What was it like for you the first time your immediate family, your mother and a wife, your immediate family discovered or found out that you were diagnosed?
Right. My first thought was for my daughter, who was 4 years old at the time. And, my immediate thoughts were, who would look after her? Now, this is a very unfair question for a mother to ask when there's a father present, there are family members present. But I think as a mother, you feel that you're number one in a child's life. So my thoughts were, who would look after my daughter, 4 years old, if I should die from cancer? And I have to be honest, when I got that first cancer diagnosis, my first thoughts were death. And I think most people, when you hear the word cancer, the first thing you think of is an early death.
Mm-hmm.
I've been lucky. It is now 16 years since that breast cancer diagnosis, and I'm still here. I'm still alive and well. Though, as you know, since then, I was diagnosed with ovarian cancer at the age of 44, and then 2 years after I finished treatment, the ovarian cancer came back again. This is because it was a late-stage diagnosis, and unfortunately, with late-stage ovarian cancer, even when all visible cancer has been removed from you and you follow the whole course of chemotherapy, there is a tendency for the cancer to come back, sometimes several times. I know people who have had 5 recurrences of ovarian cancer over, a 15-year period.
And this emotionally, how did you cope with this emotionally? How did you personally cope the first time?
The first time, I think I remember the internet wasn't around when I was diagnosed with breast cancer, and in many ways that's a good thing, because there's a lot of scary information
Mm-hmm.
on the internet about cancer. But I do remember very early on when I was diagnosed with breast cancer, I think I found a leaflet or something at the hospital which said something like 70% of patients diagnosed with breast cancer survive. And I thought that meant that the odds were in my favor. I thought those are good odds, 70% are good odds. So I think once I finished my treatment, I was largely able to just move forward with life. I have to say, my personal experience, and I think this is true for most cancer survivors or most people who've had a diagnosis of cancer, there's a certain amount of vulnerability that remains with you, so that even though you've finished your treatment and you may be having follow-ups where they're saying that they're not seeing any cancer, anytime you get a strange ache or pain, you worry, oh, has the cancer come back? So I have to say that I fall into that category, and that has been with me very much since, much more so with the ovarian cancer than with the breast cancer. So I had 8 years remission from all cancer after the breast cancer diagnosis before I got another cancer diagnosis.
Congratulations. And you've had your personal triumph and so on. I saw a post recently about 5 years expectation, and you've surpassed that. So congratulations. What does it feel
Yeah.
like, though? I mean, the day you woke up and you realized that, oh my gosh, I have passed this mark. What is that feeling like?
Well, unfortunately, as I said, with ovarian cancer, with late stage ovarian cancer, they never give you the all clear.
Mm.
They may say to you, let me go back to the beginning. So in 2007, September, I was diagnosed with ovarian cancer. And I was then told that my life expectancy would be about 5 years. But even though they removed all visible cancer, they told me, I remember my husband and I rocking up to the surgeon, having finished all my treatment, and we were assuming that this would be like the breast cancer, that they would say, okay, everything's gone, you've finished all your treatment, so life should be fine. And we were shocked when the surgeon said to us, there's a high chance that this will come back. He said, about 90% chance it will come back. And I think I spent the next couple of years worrying about it coming back, and sure enough, it did. And I read on the internet that recurrent ovarian cancer, people normally die within 2 years. So I think, um, I was at work. I couldn't really concentrate on my work because I was almost planning my funeral. And unfortunately, soon after I finished my treatment for ovarian cancer the second time, my dad died of prostate cancer. And a number of other friends that I had made in the ovarian cancer community also passed away. So 2011 was a very difficult year for me. And I was concerned that I also, my life expectancy would be very short. So the consultants then said to me, you're like for these less than 5 years. And I was very worried and very anxious. And as you would have seen in the Facebook post, I'm delighted to still be here. I feel very well.
Mm-hmm.
And but it's still a very mixed blessing, because I do know somebody who she was diagnosed with ovarian cancer. She had a 9-year remission, and she's no longer with us because it came back, and she's no longer with us. So it's always a bit of a mixed blessing.
Mm-hmm.
But I think the real thing is I think if I'm honest, you look at me here, I'm fit and I'm healthy. In many respects, I've accepted in my heart that I could die young, but I don't live every day on that basis. I live every day trying to, working on the assumption that I will have a long and healthy life.
I'm glad you brought it up, because even though we're going to get back to hereditary cancer and a patient's perspective in a moment, but
Yeah.
I want to follow this line about your positive outlook. Adel, whenever I see you, there's this smile, and we know about the smile, and it illuminates the room and so on, and it reassures us that for some reason that everything is okay, and it speaks to the irony that we're the one who should be reassuring you, yet you smile so brightly and so sweetly.
Well,
This
I think,
strength, Adele, where does it come from?
where does what?
The strength and the courage, where does it come from?
Well, I don't really believe in all this. People tell me all the time that, oh, you're a strong woman and you're very brave. And I don't buy this strength business. I think I'm shining through my weakness.
Mm. If that is not strength, change my name. Shining through your weakness. All right, we'll take that. We'll take that. Um, anyway, I just want you to know that you really are a ray of hope and light for many. Hereditary cancer, a patient's perspective. Why speak on this aspect of cancer, and why a patient's perspective?
Well, I think for me it was a shock to find that that my cancer diagnoses were a result of hereditary cancer. When I was diagnosed with breast cancer, they asked me if there was a history of breast cancer in my family, and I said no. And my dad's brother had died of prostate cancer, and I believe one of his sisters may have died of another cancer. But I hadn't got the impression that, cancer was a big, a regular occurrence in my family. But once I was diagnosed with ovarian cancer, they said that people don't normally get two primary cancers unless there is a genetic involvement. So I was tested, and I was found to have something called a BRCA2 gene mutation, which is what had caused my cancers. So I wanted to talk about hereditary cancer when you asked me to come on the show, because for me, hearing about BRCA was the first time that I'd heard of BRCA. Similarly, when I was diagnosed with ovarian cancer, it was pretty much the first time I was really hearing about ovarian cancer. I think most people have heard about breast cancer, and that is a good thing. But because the symptoms of ovarian cancer are very hard to recognize, people have a lot of symptoms, but because women don't know about ovarian cancer, and because their GPs don't seem to know much about ovarian cancer, people are not recognizing the symptoms of ovarian cancer until it's a late-stage diagnosis. So I wanted people to be aware of ovarian cancer and its symptoms. And I also wanted people to be aware of BRCA gene mutations and the fact that there is such a thing as gene mutations. Now, it can be very controversial. People always want to say to you, oh, you are what you eat, or you are what you think. Despite the gene mutation, you probably will not get cancer. My grandmother probably had the gene mutation. She she did not die of cancer. But I believe that people should try and live a healthy life, getting good exercise, eating lots of fruit and vegetables, following the medical recommendations for a healthy diet. I don't believe in in cutting out anything. I'm not dairy free. A lot of people give up dairy when they've had cancer. I eat red meat. I eat ice cream. I eat chocolate. I have a glass of wine occasionally. But I do want people to be aware that if you get a cancer diagnosis and you're living a healthy life, I think that you're more likely to do better during the treatment. You will survive the treatment better. I don't want to judge anybody who gets a cancer diagnosis, and I would like to discourage people from effectively blaming cancer patients for getting their disease.
Mm. How was cancer or hereditary cancer, um, or your knowledge of it, affected your outlook on life?
Um, how has it affected my outlook on life? At the moment, my biggest concern is my daughter.
Mm-hmm.
She still has to be tested to see if she has a gene mutation. She has a 50-50 chance of having it because she will either inherit that gene from me or she'll inherit a healthy gene from my husband. So that's a big concern. Both my sisters have had breast cancer. I have concerns about my nieces and um, my great nieces, my great nephew, um, as to whether they will have inherited the cancer gene as well. So looking forward, there's lots of worry in the family. So, you know, where we probably all look very carefree, there's always this little underlying worry as to who will be next. Those who have tested and know that they've got the gene, they're under pressure. They're either under pressure to take preventative surgery or they're under pressure with having regular surveillance and worrying if and when the surveillance will show a cancer diagnosis.
And Adele, I presume, or I think I've seen somewhere that you've given talks and on the various forms of cancer.
Yes.
What is your underlying
Um,
message usually to your audience?
I think the key message is to know your body so that when something is different and persistently different, you know that this is not the norm for you. You have to march yourself off to the doctor. And I did that a number of times. I would say if you go to your doctor and you feel in your heart of hearts that something is seriously wrong with you, you must make sure that the doctors also recognize that you are coming here because you think something is seriously wrong. So don't be fobbed off like I was with prescriptions for two types of laxatives. I had lived 40-something years with, you know, having no issues which required me to take laxatives.
Mm.
And so when I go to my doctor and I'm presenting a number of issues, and one of them is constipation, I'm not coming to her for a prescription of laxatives. If I thought that that was an issue, I would treat myself. So my mistake was not to say to the doctor, look, I think this is a bit more serious than that. So I encourage everybody, male and female, when something changes in your body system, when you think something is different, you must go to your doctors and you must be insistent that they must follow up and take you seriously.
And these support groups, can I call it that you're part of
Uh-huh.
the organizations? How important is it to be part of such an organization or such a group?
Right. Well, I actually set up support. I'm a member of an organization called Overcome, which is a national ovarian cancer support group. But I actually set up my own local support group because there wasn't one. And I mentioned the internet earlier. If you Google late stage ovarian cancer life expectancy,
Hmm.
you get bad news. And I think when you meet with other women who have had late stage ovarian cancer and they're still alive and doing well, it's encouraging for you and for those other women. I think in my support group, I'm probably one of the longest lived um, stage 3C ovarian cancer people in the group that I set up, and I lead that group. And I hope that if nothing else, when people come to the meeting, they go away knowing that Adele was diagnosed 8 years ago, stage 3C. Adele had a recurrence 5 years ago, stage 3C. Adele is still alive and doing well and causing trouble, etc., etc.
During these some of these sessions, what are the like the main focus or the most frequent focus of discussion?
Well, it really varies quite a lot. Obviously, our meetings are confidential, so I probably don't want to tell you any details.
Okay.
But and that is one of the key things in the meeting. But it can be anything we talk about. Let me think. Sometimes we have people come in to talk to us. We had an oncologist come and talk to us, and we were able to just ask her any question whatsoever. I have private health treatment, so when I go to see my oncologist or my surgeon, I'm seeing the same person every time, and I can almost spend as much time as I want asking all the questions that I want. Everybody doesn't have that. On the NHS, when people rock up for their meetings, they're very often seeing a completely different doctor every time, somebody who probably is not as experienced as the people that I see. So I think for many people, I remember one lady, she said, it was wonderful to have the oncologist come to our meeting because we had the opportunity to ask silly questions, which she obviously doesn't feel able to, in her regular appointments.
What is a defining was a defining moment for you after you started this group?
It's really when people at the end of the group say, Adele, thank you so much. We really had a good meeting, or it was really good to meet with other people, etc., etc.
Mhm.
The other thing which I've started, we had our sixth Tea with Overcome event in March this year, and that to me, it competes with my birthday and with Christmas in terms of my level of excitement and animation on that day. And what we do there, we have a champagne afternoon tea and fashion show, and everybody in the fashion show is a woman who has had ovarian cancer or
Mm.
who is living with ovarian cancer. Sometimes the women are still having chemotherapy and they are on the stage, and when you look at them, you wouldn't believe it. And again, it is just a wonderful moment for me when they come off the stage and they're beaming and they're happy and they say that this was a once in a lifetime event for them.
Did you anticipate? Was this part of your vision when you first started it, or your vision just evolved over with time?
it just it just evolved. The first thing we did, we just had afternoon tea. It was a very quiet event. We had less than 50 people. Then it evolved into a champagne afternoon tea and fashion show. And I think the first fashion show, my daughter and her friends modeled, and they pretty much just modeled clothes that we had in the wardrobe at home. And then after that event, it just seemed obvious to me that the model should be women who had ovarian cancer. And we have had a high street retailer has provided clothing for us for, I think, the last three fashion shows, and have already committed to the next fashion show. That retailer is called Apricot. And this year we also had an organization called Simply Be, who provided clothing in addition to Apricot. And next year we've got a wonderful small design company called London Ethnic,
Mhm.
and they're providing clothing in addition to Apricot. Apricot has also produced a special teal dress. They did it last year and they did it this year, and all the funds raised from the sale of those dresses in their stores is donated to Overcome. So as a result of my various Tea with Overcome events, we've probably raised about £60,000 for Overcome, which is the National Ovarian Cancer
Oh.
Charity. So, I feel that is quite one of my proudest achievements. When I was at work, I managed projects, technology projects, which were, several million pounds, tens of millions of pounds. But raising £10,000 for Overcome, for
What?
me, has felt like a much greater achievement.
Adele, or earlier, and I mentioned to you about uh, this strength and courage, and you so modestly refuted. But and some people, I presume, draw their strength from you. Now, who or what do you draw your strength from? Those days when, you may feel like, gosh, do I really have to get up? What gets you up and where do you draw your strength?
The days when I don't feel like getting up, I don't get up.
you know, that's a good one, Adele. That's a good one. Just listen to the body, right?
That's right. I really believe people must listen to their bodies. People must listen to their hearts. They must understand. I think you must understand what any experience is trying to tell you.
Uh huh.
And I do remember one time when I was the first time I had ovarian cancer, um, and I was lying in bed on a Sunday morning. The chemo was just making me feel awful. My sister Yvette phoned, and I said to her, what is this cancer trying to tell me? Why didn't I get it? What message was it trying to give me that I didn't get the first time round? And I think ultimately the message was about the BRCA gene. In our case, we didn't know about that yet. So I kind of had to suffer the cancer twice before the message could be passed to my sisters, to their daughters, hopefully, to my daughter that there is a risk. And what that hopefully means is that people are able to take prior action to make sure that they never get cancer. One of my nieces, I'm sure she won't mind me mentioning, she has scheduled mastectomies for November 20th this year. And she said to me that she owes it to me, to her two aunts and to her mother that she does not get cancer. So, she's only in her 30s. She is coming up to the same age that I was when I was diagnosed with breast cancer. She, to me, is the brave person. She is taking that brave step to make sure that she does not get a cancer diagnosis.
If you had to say or to tell us one more thing or two, perhaps, about hereditary cancer, what would that
I think, I like to tell people that the BRCA gene comes with good looks and intelligence.
be?
So I think that is a facetious statement. But joking aside, when you're given gifts, nobody complains when they're given gifts which are positive. So if you have inherited something which will give you cancer, don't complain about that.
Mm.
Because you don't complain if your parents were rich, like the song, if daddy's rich and mommy's good looking, nobody's complaining. So if rich daddy or good looking mommy passed on a BRCA gene to you, don't complain either. Just go with the flow, accept what life gives you, and make the best of every day that you have. Your health really is your wealth. Choose happiness over sadness. Choose balance over obsession. Choose friends and family over your work when you can.
This is so profound, Adele. At what point did this happen? Did this realization, this recognition occur in your life?
I think, being told that your life expectancy is 5 years or less will make you sit up and think. I think well, if you're told that your life might be shortened, you can either cry every day until that life is over, or you can wake up and smile every day and make the most of every day and enjoy every day until your life is over. Everybody's got to go sometime. I have met people diagnosed with ovarian cancer I met somebody a couple of weeks ago. I was in Philadelphia for a conference. She said she was diagnosed 20 years ago with ovarian cancer, stage 3C, and she's still here. And recently in the newspapers in the UK, there was somebody who was diagnosed 40 years ago, and she'd been told she only had a 6-month life expectancy. So doctors are not gods. When they give you your life expectancy, They're doing statistics. There's the bell curve we all know about, also known as the Gaussian distribution. Somebody has to be an outlier. Believe that you can be one of the positive outliers. Accept that you might be one of the negative outliers and wake up every day and make the most of every day. And make the most of the people in your life as well. Because you don't know how, you don't know, nobody's life is guaranteed. You don't know how long you have anybody in your life for. Don't take people for granted.
Adele, if there's one thing you know today about cancer that you did not know 5 years ago that has helped to change your life or give you a different perspective on things, what would that one thing be?
Something about cancer that has changed my perspective, something that I didn't know 5 years ago. Well, I think it is that the full realization that doctors are giving you statistics and everybody is an individual.
Mm. Adele, half hour and it's gone. And what an enjoyable half hour it was, even though the topic was something like cancer. And only someone like you can make this happen. So thank you very much for joining us and sharing your time with us. I'm not going to tell the world where you are and having a wonderful time, but this is what friends do to you. So thank you.
Well, as I said at the beginning, thank you for inviting me to be on the show, and I just hope that something that I've said has been of use to somebody somewhere.
Thank you, Adele, and enjoy the rest of your evening.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye bye.